Geographers, hello. Hope you're all doing well in these coronavirus times. Second little workshop on coursework and the NEA, and it's on methodology. So, quick recap. Try to speed it up a little bit. All these things in green, just here, you should have done already. So you should have filled in a proposal form, had some initial ideas, filled in a proposal form, done all this, add your proposal accepted with teacher comments, and then wrote your introduction and purpose of the investigation, which is worth 12. So that's kind of the red box on this route to inquiry. Steps 8 and 9 is your methodology design, your data collection sheets design, getting any apps on your smartphone, printing off your data collection sheets, getting them all organised, getting equipment ready, and then going out and actually collecting reliable, accurate, precise data as much as possible. So we're moving into this kind of orange box just here. Level 3 mark assessment criteria straight from the exam board, not teacher edited version. It's right here, 8 to 10 marks. What you're going to be scored on for level 3. Choosers, I'll highlight some of the keywords from this. Appropriate methods. Now, fieldwork or research methods. So are they appropriate to the topic that you're investigating? If they're not appropriate, then you'll probably get to the end of the project having not referred to the data that you've collected, because it's not helped you to answer your questions. A range of data and information. That can be fieldwork and secondary. So yeah, range, GCSE project, no disrespect to them, they might have 3, maybe 4 data collection techniques. Personally, I think that's limited at A level, probably looking for half a dozen at least. So yeah, that word range is subjective, but in my opinion, 3 is not enough. 4, it's a bit flimsy. Yeah, so we're looking for more than that. Designs, and this is what you do, design a valid sampling framework appropriate to the focus being investigated. So, is it a transect study? You're going to need to determine how spaced apart your sampling points are if you're measuring something change along a transect. If it's a comparative study, you're going to choose your sampling strategy again. Are you going to use a random sampling strategy, systematic, stratified, opportunistic for different techniques? You're going to need to consider the frequency, so that's how many and how often you collect data, and when you collect data and how long for. A little example: if you are doing footfall counts or traffic counts, they're probably going to vary at different times of the day and different times of the week. So if you wanted to see the popularity of a regeneration project, for instance, then why are you going to, you're going to want to see how that changes over the course of a week. You might do weekday morning sampling, weekday afternoon, weekday early evening, for instance, and then do the same for Saturday and Sunday. And you're going to need to decide how long you do your counts for. Yep. Are you going to do 3 1-minute counts at each point, or are you going to do 3 2-minute counts? You've got to make all these decisions. Ethics. So we'll talk about that later. I'm going to get sucked into that just this minute. But yeah, ethics, health and safety, risk assessments, that sort of thing. And then finally, you actually go and collect reliable data, consistent use of methods with high levels of precision and accuracy, and your data collection sheets and design are going to help you do that. Okie dokie, without much further ado, let's rock and roll. Right, folks, write this down. Very important. Before you go anywhere near, or you step out your front door to collect data to do your field work, you need the following, and you need this printed off. The amount of students that think they can get away with this, it'll end in disaster. And my daughter's crying in the background. Yeah, so that's what will happen. It will end in tears. Yeah, it was quite good timing that she started crying, because if you don't do this, you will end up like my daughter is at the minute and having a bit of a tantrum. Alright, so it'll go wrong. First thing, a base map with sample points marked on the map. The map needs to be at the right scale. Alright, if it's a coastal project, I want to know exactly which groins, or you should know, be able to mark on which groins are you going to sample. If it's a regeneration project and you're doing a out of town shopping centre, I want to know exactly where you were standing, in which car parks you're going to sample for car park occupancy, which entrances you're going to be stood near for doing your traffic counts and your pedestrian counts and your activity mapping. Exactly. Yep, not, well, I'm just going to Trafford Centre and I'll stand wherever. That's not good enough. You need to think about your sampling points logically. Number 2, design a questionnaire, alright, a well-designed questionnaire, and have them printed off ready. All your other surveys and data collection sheets, you will either need to steal and modify them or design from scratch. Yep, they need to be printed off, alright. Any equipment that you need and smartphone apps, have these downloaded before you set out your front door. You don't want to be having to go into Greg's or buy a £3 coffee in Costa or any other reputable fast food or barista coffee establishment to get Wi-Fi to download these apps. Have it before you go. Have them all organised, clearly wrote up, sample point 1 with the coordinates, and have every data collection sheet for that sample point in one place. Yep, it's going to make your life way easier when you come to analyse and present it and actually start manipulating that data, because it's going to be organised from the start. It's not going to be on a beer mat. Right, write this down. Sampling base maps are a must. Right, get the map at the right scale, mark on where you're going and what way you're sampling. Every decision you make when you write this methodology up should have logic behind it. There's no such thing, or there shouldn't be any random decisions. You're going to need to justify and have some logical reasoning behind the decisions that you make. Alright? And some geography, theory, key terms is going to come into play when you design this methodology. Yep. Couple of examples for random different types of projects. An understanding of what groins do in a coastal project will affect your sampling strategy slightly. Alright, if you're doing sandite accumulations. An understanding of identity and different possible employment groups could be integrated in a well-designed questionnaire. Again, it's not random. You're going to have researched different employment groups to give people that option on the questionnaire. Yeah, so a lot of thought and planning goes into this, more time than what you think for the 10 marks. Another example, understanding of different parts of a city using a model like Mann's model of urban structure. Burgess is a little bit outdated, but same idea really. Different parts of a city to affect the zones or length of transect that you choose to sample. If you're measuring change along a transect coming out of the CBD to the rural-urban fringe, then once you hit that rural-urban fringe, well, you're not going to carry on, are you? It's pointless. If you get your transect too long, you're going to be collecting data that's not relevant and appropriate to your study. There's no logic behind why you've walked 8 miles along a transect when the outskirts of the city ended maybe after 5, that sort of thing. And if it's too short, then you're not going to have that kind of transect through the different zones. So a map is your best friend here. Yeah, tells you a lot. Okie dokie, with that in mind. Right, example of a pretty small map of Sheffield. Base maps. If you use maps in your introduction, they might be different for your methodology. Alright? Couple couple of hints, tips, whatever. The area of your investigation needs a clear boundary. If you're doing wards, get me a map of that ward in detail, blown up at a clear scale. Yeah. Yeah, you need to put your sample points on that map precisely. I recommend you just print it off, nice and big, and get a pen, the old-fashioned way, and mark them on. Each map could do with a scale, so you've got an idea of the distance, you know whether you're going to be able to get to each sample point on foot, whether you're going to need to get a bus, train, whatever. Yeah, an example here, that map's fine in an introduction to show your 3 wards in Sheffield. It's not fine for your methodology. You're going to need to zoom in to each one and probably print off 3. I think this student went on this example comparing 3 different wards in Sheffield, so you're going to need a blown up map of each one that looks something like this. Google Maps, I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest with you. They're pretty pants. You're going to have random things pop up on your map that doesn't look too clever. I would recommend that you find your maps from either ArcGIS or the NOMIS website. Yep, because the boundaries are already on for you. If you're doing a coastal project, you could even use a satellite image that's at the right scale, I guess. Or, yeah, if you need to find streets, then you're going to need the street names, aren't you? And this student here has marked on their sample points, so it's pretty accurate. They know which streets they're going to before they go out. Right then, that's 12 minutes of introduction. Let's have a look at. Let's just link this mark scheme and these headers into kind of what you're going to need to think about. So, appropriate methods to collect, arrange your data and information is relevant. If you do this in the form of a table, just be aware that your table's probably not going to be big enough to get everything that you want to write in the table into the table. But what it does do is it makes sure, the benefits of a table is that it makes sure that you tick every box and think through everything. If you want to write it kind of in more continuous prose and not in a table and just, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to sample here, and just write it in paragraph form, that's fine, but try to remember to keep kind of these points that are going to be in the headers of the table. So the first column that you need to do for each fieldwork technique, I've popped these in a table just here. Alright, so hopefully these should be relevant and appropriate to the topic you're investigating. Right, next bit. Designs a valid sampling framework. So the next column is for each one of these techniques, why have you chosen that method? So if you've done sandite accumulations, why does that fieldwork technique help you answer your research questions? Why does it help you prove or disprove a hypothesis, and how is it going to help you shed light on the title? In your introduction, you should have a range of sub-questions and hypotheses. So sandite accumulations might help me show the impact of groins, which is sub-question 1, and how groins affect physical processes and beach morphology. Again, the key terms are coming in, and that then in turn is going to help me answer my overall aim of how successful and appropriate coastal management is at location X. Yep. Traffic counts, just pick one at random. If you're doing, I don't know, success of a regeneration project and how busy an out-of-town shopping centre is, then it might help you answer the question on what problems are being caused, because if your traffic counts at certain times of the day are too high, you're going to get congestion, which affects the environment. On the flip side of that, it can also help prove, how busy it actually is and how many people are actually using that facility or that service. Some of these you can also combine. So you could discuss traffic counts with car park occupancy. That would make sense to combine those two and do a bit of a write-up for both. If you're doing beach height, width and profile, again, you might lump all those two together. So don't feel that you have to split every one like that. So why is it appropriate and relevant to your study? That's that bit. Yep, if you can justify it, this helps me answer question 2 and hypothesis 1 because, and bring your geography in when you do that. Yep, it doesn't have to be War and Peace, a paragraph will be enough. Yep, a couple of sentences. The next bit is the framework and your sampling strategy. So, what sampling strategy are you using first of all? Look at your map. Are you going to do a random strategy, stratified, systematic? For questionnaires, you might do opportunistic. For interviews and questionnaires, you might quota from certain demographics, for instance. Also, your sample size, you need to show a bit of forethought because some of the, well, all of the stats tests need a minimum sample size. So, for instance, I think Spearman's rank needs at least 12 points to plot on a scatter plot. Ideally more, but a minimum of 12. Mann-Whitney Hughes and student t-tests also need a minimum number of samples to get a decent test result, if you like. Chi-squared as well. So, you know, it wants to be realistic and manageable, but you need to get that balance right between going crazy and having too many sampling points and overkill, but you can also come a cropper by having too few. Yep. Again, the justification, that's the key bit. So if you are doing systematic sampling in a groin field and there's 30 groins, well, obviously we don't need to sample all 30 because that's just stupid, but you might do 8 groins or 10 groins into every third groin. You might choose 5 groins. Again, it's your decision. Alright, that would be systematic. Okie dokie, so I'm not going to give a lecture now on different sampling strategies. You should have been taught that by your teacher, so you might need to revisit or pull up the old Google or your coursework Bible and look at the different ones. Yep. Third bit, frequency and timings. Again, every project's different. How many are you going to do? How long are you going to do the counts for? If you're counting breaking waves on the shore, if you're counting cars, people, footfall into businesses, whatever it is, when are you going to do them? Think about tide times, think about mornings, afternoons, weekdays, weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. Whenever you choose to sample and collect your data will affect the results. There's no right or wrong, well, there's no 100% right answer to this, as long as there's logic to behind what you're doing. Yep, you need to justify and explain why are you doing this many counts for this long at these dates and times. Yep, and then justify it. Okie dokie. Next bit, this has got a little bit bigger in the last year or two, this one. Ethics, health and safety, equipment, things like that. Couple of pointers here to bring into your discussion. You don't need all of these for every technique, but you know, some of you might want to do it generally as well and not actually do it for each technique. But how are you going to reduce bias in, for instance, your questionnaire design, in your data collection, in how are you going to improve accuracy and precision when you're doing beach profiles, all right, or when you're doing traffic counts? How can your sampling strategy help you do that? And we can think in terms of environment, economic and social ethics. So social side of things, you know, informed consent for questionnaires, sort of showing people your college ID, letting them know how their data will be used and are they happy with that. Yep, so GDPR and data protection is a big thing. Another thing, I'm just going to pop this in, personal identifiers. So if you're taking photographs in a city centre, then it's probably a good idea to blur out the faces of people so they're not recognisable if you use them use the photographs in your project. If you're doing a questionnaire, do you really need to know their exact age, their exact income, and exactly where they live, right? Or will just the postcode do? That sort of thing. So think about that when you're designing questionnaires. Personal questions, be very careful, or she might get smacked. Yeah, just think, good questionnaire design. It wants to collect information that you need, but without being too personal and taking people's inside leg measurements. And another trait of bad questionnaire design, or bad methodology design in general for any of these, is unused data. So you collect a stack load of it, and then you get to your presentation analysis and realise, ooh, I've collected too much, and you don't end up using it. So that can lose marks as well. Yeah. So don't always think that more is the better way to go with this. It's got to be a balance. Whatever you collect, you should be using without kind of asking people questions. 10 questions on your questionnaire, and you've only presented the data for 3. All right, the moderator will pick up on that, and you can end up losing marks. Always have your college ID with you if you're out and about. Yeah. Health and safety as well. We've got COVID-19, so questionnaires might not happen. I'd still advise you to maybe, if you were originally planning on using them, then you can design the questionnaire, but see how it goes. Use your common sense. Tide times. Yeah, I've known a student travel 60 miles to the coast only to realise that the tide is not where they thought it was going to be, and have a wasted day. Can't help but laugh, but yeah, think about that. Tide times. Do a bit of research before you go. The time of day. If you're in a notoriously rough, deprived part of a city, and you're doing environmental survey questionnaires and car age surveys and property surveys at 10 p.m. on a Friday night, is that safe? Especially if you're by yourself. Probably not. Are you going to collect data in pairs for safety? That kind of thing. So, yeah. And the other one is the environment. So if you're doing, let's think, longshore drift tests on a beach, you don't want to be using plastic, because if you do happen to use your ping pong ball, then it might affect marine life, they might choke on it. You want to use an orange peel or something that's biodegradable. If you are doing questionnaires or footfall counts in the city centre, how many people are going into businesses, you don't want to be stood in the doorway to somebody's small business, sort of scaring people off, because somebody that was going to go in that business might see you lot with a clipboard, armed with a pen and a clipboard and your college ID, and just think, I can't be asked to be pestered, and you might be costing that business money. So think about where you stand, that sort of thing. Yep. Photographs should have people's faces blurred out for personal reasons. Right, so whether you choose to do it in a table like that, or whether you choose to write it in what I'd call continuous prose, is entirely up to you, but that is what the examiner, the moderator, is going to be judging you on. Yep. For some techniques, you're going to be writing more than others, maybe in certain boxes. Yep. So every project's different. You've got to think it through. You've got to use logic. Right, what we have? 24 minutes, right? What we got here? Considerations, yeah. Don't collect data that you don't end up using or don't need. Beware of questionnaires with too many questions. I want to talk about good questionnaire design in a sec. Don't always reinvent the wheel. right? Some surveys and questionnaires, questions online, if you do a bit of digging, will be good enough to use without any modification, right? Look at it and think, is that going to be useful for me? But some won't be. Land use surveys are a common one. You can get very general land use surveys, or you can get really specific ones. You need to choose that level for your project. Is a general one good enough, or do you need, more angled at facilities, services, and different types of shops for a retail survey? Yeah, slightly different, affects your findings an awful lot when you come to analyse and draw conclusions. Yeah, once you've selected and designed the surveys, organise them and print them. Yeah, okie dokie. Next bit. Just a couple examples of how different data collection sheets can vary given the project. Alright, so this student, well, it's actually us that have designed it, it's not a student, but it's a table, data collection sheet for a transect study. So you've got your transect stations, whether they're 30 metres, 50 metres, 100 metres apart, whatever, along a transect, station 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you've got the different land uses, the dominant land use down the left hand side, and you could either put a percentage in for each one, an estimate, or you could just take the most dominant one. That, again, that's your choice, and that's a transect table. Might not be appropriate to all of you, it might be for some. Next, we've got environmental quality, regeneration and deprivation surveys. This one's a bipolar, again, quite detailed. Different elements of environmental quality that you score at each sampling point from +3 to -3. Then you can do a little tally box as well and give it a total score. All these little things are going to help you analyse and present it later and save time. Simple regeneration and deprivation survey from, is there evidence of regeneration? Yes. Lots of new developments? No. Give it a score from 0 to 5. Deprivation survey, very deprived -3. Wealthy and affluent area +3 with no deprivation. Again, you might want to tweak that. Neighbourhood quality surveys brings in housing quality. Again, bipolar, so from -3 to +3. You could even add a bit of qualitative data in here and describe what you see in one word at each point, possibly. Create a word cloud later on. A more detailed environmental quality survey. Be careful with these because, really keen ones amongst you can think, yes, I'm going to fill all this in for 30 sampling points, and then when you come to actually present the data, it's just not presented and not used whatsoever. So, yeah, sometimes less isn't always, more isn't always the best way to go, right? This type of thing will probably be more suitable to if you're doing 2, 3, 4 different regeneration projects maybe, or developments, but I wouldn't be using this if I were doing 30 of these. It's probably overkill. Big one for regeneration people, or people doing out of town shopping regeneration, high street, town centre declines, clone town surveys, rebranding, that sort of thing. A detailed and specific retail survey, alright, where you've got proper, well designed groups for retail, which it is out there on the internet, but it's pretty tricky to find. So there you have it, if you think that might be useful. General land use surveys. This is very general. You could adapt that could be a key. Example of what you do with it: if you're taking a base map with you from ArcGIS, then you've got your buildings marked on. You can be creating colours before you go and just do it in coloured crayon like that. Bipolar evaluation sheets. This one is for coasts. So different categories. Again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I've stolen this off the internet. I didn't actually create this. Have a look at that. If you're doing a coastal project, you can do one of these for groins, one for revetment, one for riprap, one for rock armour, one for seawalls. Yep, and actually score each one very quick. Loads of data from that you can present later. What's this one? Another transect based table. This one looks like it's in 200 metre intervals, and you just tick in the percentage land use or the dominant land use at each point. Right, in terms of designing your own tables, might be worth using Excel. I mean, this is one I did for beach profiling. Use a bit of logic. So if I start at the sea wall end, just here at site 1, then I'm going to measure my angle and the distance. So if it's 5 meters and it's flat at 0 degrees, I'm going to do that. And then after 5 meters, it changes to an angle of, it goes minus 4 degrees for a total of 4 meters. Yep, the more organised and the better designed these sheets are, the easier it will be when you're in the field and when you present it. I've done exactly the same for site 2 or groin 2 or site 2, site 3, etc. Sandite accumulations. Groin 1, if you're sampling at metre intervals as you walk down the groin, then take a measurement 1 metre from the top of the groin, the north side and the south side. Move down along the groin, do the same again. So all you do once you've designed 1 is, for groin 2, copy and paste and edit it. Groin 2. Questionnaire design. Yeah, think about how wordy your questions are. Alright? They want to be simple and easy to understand. You don't want 3 different parts to the question. Alright? Only ask questions that you're going to help answer your research questions. A mix of questions normally works well. So a simple yes or no, an option question where you give them an option to tick a box, a mixture of closed and open questions where they get the opportunity to say what they think and you quickly jot down the key bits. Bipolar scoring questions as well. Try and think what you're going to do with it later. Open questions, asking people's opinions on things, like describe the Trafford Centre, the best thing about the Trafford Centre, describe the worst thing about the Trafford Centre. And you were going to quickly write down a few words. Is, well, what you're going to do with that later. Are you going to do a word cloud, for instance? That'd be a good idea, maybe. So try and have a bit of an idea of what you're going to do with the data later. In your methodology, you can bring this in as well. When you're thinking about closed or open questions, they've both got pros and cons. So closed questions, very reliable, efficient use of time, very precise, but you lose on breadth and depth, and you lose on the breadth and depth where you're open questions, where you let someone talk. So just study that a little bit. Question design. Yeah, a couple of examples. Options, closed questions with an option. Example of an open question, just here where somebody's actually gone and actually said their opinion on something. Closed question with option boxes again. So yeah, just think about what you're asking. Yep, and remember, should have logic, you need base maps. 34 minutes. I hope that's helped you. Okay, stay safe. See you later.